YouTube, what up? It's your boy, Young Wavy, forever. So I came by to give y'all a brushing technique, part 2 of the swirl breakdown. How I brush my hair, my pattern. It's fairly similar to part 1. It's just that now that my crown has gotten smaller, my brushing angles and the way I brush my pattern slightly altered. So we're going to get right into it. A couple key things you want to take into consideration. You're going to try this pattern on. You want to probably start out slow brushing it first, just to get a consistency, knowing where you're placing the brush, knowing the angles you need to brush each side. It's not a freestyle brushing session that you want to do. It takes precision when you're placing the brush around your crown, when you're brushing each side, because you have to make sure you're angling the brush and you're brushing the right way in order to capture the pattern, the connection, let's so have you. So I'm going to start out with my back right, because that's usually how I start out my brushing sessions, is with my back right. Then I'll go to the back left / middle, and then I'll come to the left side, I'll do the top, and then I'll do the right side. Now the reason why I do that is because my top to my right is almost as if the top falls down over into the right side, so therefore I try to keep that consistent rotation going around, following the swirl pattern that I'm trying to create. Alright, so we're going to go to the back, and the back right is where we're going to start. So as you can see, now notice I take the peak of the brush. I'm using the crown brush now, so it has that peak where I can get real close, real precise, next to my crown area. Now, it's no different from using the Caesar brush. I'll show you. It's all about just placing it, right on the edge of your crown. You want to make sure when you're brushing, the brush is at that angle that you need it to be in order to have the wave pattern like come down and go around. So basically I'll start from there, or with the peak of the brush hair, and I'll come down and come down on a downward angle, but while the brush is still angled behind my ear. So we're going to put that back. I'm going to use a crown. So once again, this is how it would be. Peak of the brush, not in the crown. I mean, for those of you who, because I tend to like the open spot. It shows, I think, the pattern a little bit better for me than having it close. All it takes, is combing. Combing helps, like, shrink down your crown. So I'll put the peak of the brush at the crown, and then I'll come down behind my ear all the way through. Down behind the ear all the way through. Give you a different angle. Behind the ear. Behind the ear. Now that's the right back. Now the left back, I use my left hand, and I'll take the brush, and same thing, you want to basically pick up where you left off. So you want to place the brush, you don't want to overlap the pattern, but you want to place the brush or the edge of the brush right where you left off from the right back. So it's just like a continuation of the pattern basically. So I'll put the peak of the brush, tip of my crown, and basically the brush should be angled like this. I'm going to come down on a downward angle, but like sweeping my hair to the left. So it's almost going to look like this. or it is going to look like this. I'm going to sweep it from the crown area all the way down on a downward angle. The reason why I say on a downward angle is because you want to make sure you're getting that lower part also. You just don't want to sweep it across and not get the lower part. So you want to come downwards behind your ear, or try to, as if you're sweeping it under your ear. So right in the crown area, the peak, come downwards behind the ear. Now it's the same thing. We're going to continue where we left off. Obviously, I came on a downward angle behind my ear. So this whole space in front of it, or this part here, would be considered my left side. I would then take the brush, and I'm putting it not fully into my crown, because remember we covered most of the crown area. This would be a region for the crown. This is where anybody's crown would be, basically. So we covered this area with the back left. I'm now going to start from here. It's going to be almost on a downward angle. Remember I said when my hair is lower, I tend to temple brush, you would say. Or I would start from here and come on a downwards angle in front of my ear. So basically the bottom of the brush is like going right past the top of my ear. So let me show you. You know, it's trying not to overlap the pattern. It's trying to give each side its own, I guess, quadrant for you to brush in. You want to try and use, you know, well, I try to use the entire length of the brush. You know, whatever, when I place the brush on my head, whatever it covers, that's what gets brushed. And then basically I pick up from that end spot where it stops covering. So that's basically how I brush my left side. And remember, my hair is low, so I temple brush. As my hair begins to grow and get longer, I would then move my brushing same place but more straight forward, like towards my eye, instead of on that downwards angle. It's more of a straight forward brushing. Alright, so once again, we just did the left side. You know, it covered, you know, just about to there. So basically what I'll do now, this area here that didn't get covered from my left side, I'll then place the brush there. Now you can't see it because I'm covering it, but that's where the brush is starting from. And I'm just going, it's with my left hand, it's straight, but the brush is angled. So it's almost as if I'm pushing my hair that way, but it's just on an angle. It's like I'm coming straight forward, but the brush is just on an angle. Yeah? And then we move to the right side. Now remember I said my top, it comes almost over into my right side. So this is the placement of the brush. Once again, picking up where we left off. So you see where the edge here is? That's where I'm going to pick up to make sure everywhere is being covered. And once again, angled brush on a downwards angle. It's on a downwards angle. And then once again, the back right. So it's just basically making sure, brush placement. When I say brush placement, you always want to make sure the peak of the brush is as closest to the outer edge of your crown as possible. When you're brushing the right left side, you want to make sure when you're doing that, it's coming down behind your ear. So basically, anything having to do with your back, it should be done behind your ear. You shouldn't be, say, coming from here and brushing back with this pattern. And then again, all depends on your growth pattern. So you have to find your natural growth pattern, or if your natural growth pattern not going to say that, but if your natural growth pattern coexists with the pattern that you're actually trying to achieve. So once again, we're just going to go around for a quick session. And a lot of things you should take into consideration. You know, as your hair is low, you know, you may not see the pattern truthfully right now. You may need to let your hair grow in. You may need to train your hair to longer length so that you can get that definition. You know, I tend to notice that my right side gains a lot more definition when it's longer as opposed to when it's short. Although my waves are still there, the definition is more enhanced at longer length. You know, it just looks a lot fuller. So you also want to take that into consideration. You know, with this pattern, sometimes it does take wave training at a longer length, because it's not like the average 360 where you're brushing straight, almost straight down, or you don't have to really angle the brush that much. This one is like you're sweeping and pushing your hair and spreading it, so then by spreading it may take away from the definition of your waves. So that's why I said as it grows and gets thicker, the definition will come back. But at lower length, you may lose the definition that you had while it was long, because it's not as full. So that's one thing you want to take note to, so don't get discouraged if you're starting out low and you're not seeing that much results. You know, just give it some time. It takes consistency of brushing this pattern. Once again, you know, brush placement, you know, making sure you're placing the brush in the same spot each stroke, so that the strands of hair stay in the place there where you put them. You know, so each time you change the angle for that one side, it's just moving or altering the pattern. You know, it's no consistency if you're switching the way you angle your brush each stroke. You know, so try to keep that consistency of brushing, and try to brush the same angle and place your brush in the same spot. So that's basically it. That's the swirl breakdown. This is part 2. This is for my enhancement because my crown has gotten smaller, like I told you. So my angles of how I brush had to change. If you have any questions, you know where I'm at. Hit me up, comment this video, inbox me. It's your boy, Young Wavy. Forever.